Ladies and gentlemen, this is your pilot speaking. My name is Tseno. I hope you're having a great day, and today we have the Mercedes-Benz GLA 2020, and I think it is the car to buy right now. Why? Because it has the stylish looks, it has all the modern technology you would expect in a modern car, and it drives just great. But before we dig in any further with these cars, let's talk about engine options. And we have quite a lot of them in the typical Mercedes-Benz fashion. Here we have the 250, and the petrol engines are quite a lot here. You have the 1.3 liter version of the 4-cylinder engine, turbo petrol, which comes in a 136 horsepower version and 163 horsepower version. And then you have the GLA 250, which is this car with 224 horsepower and 300 Newton meters. It also comes with a 4MATIC. There is also the more performance versions, which are the GLA 35 and 45 with the S, which comes the 35 with 306 horsepower and the 45s 387 and 421 in the most optimal version. About the diesel engines, you have again the GLA 180 and the 200 and 220D. All of them are coming with a 2-liter diesel engines, in the base one coming with 116 horsepower, and then you have 150 horsepower and 320 Newton meters, and in the C220D you get 190 horsepower and 400 Newton meters. So from all these choices informations, I would straight away recommend you, when you're looking about to buy a GLA for the petrol ones, to go for the 250 with the 224 horsepower, because it gets a very nice fuel economy and decent performance, and for the diesels a C200 with the front wheel drive only. It will be quite cheaper, and especially in terms of fuel consumption it will be just perfect. Depending on which model you go for, you get many different bits and pieces which make the car look completely different. For example, the lesser models have a little bit cheap look, and here we have the AMG line with 18-inch alloy wheels and also some really nice looking front and rear bumpers. You also get, for the performance models, ventilated discs. The new GLA for 2020 uses the latest Mercedes-Benz design, and despite that this one is 1 centimeter shorter than its predecessor, I think it looks much better and finally like a proper small SUV. It also gets new tail and headlamps, which are 3D design at the rear, and also the front ones you can spec with multi-beam LEDs. The interior of the new GLA feels like a lot of S-Class inspired. The layout is very good. The infotainment bright and responsive, and you get all the latest technology you would expect, and even more than that. And you can control it in many different ways, such as with the shortcut buttons on the steering wheel, also with the touchpad or with touchscreen, and last but not least with voice commands by saying "Hey Mercedes." It works quite well, and it's generally a very nice system to use. The quality of the materials in the interior is a little bit of a mixed bag at this price point, because you get really nice materials such as the soft Nappa leather here on the steering wheel and the very plush seats. Also soft touch materials everywhere you look, with this mimicking carbon fiber trims in this AMG model, but also some really scratchy and questionable plastics and strange places, such as on the central console. And also the climate control, for example, looks slightly cheap, and you get that typical squeak from Mercedes-Benz. But all in all, I think that all that technology makes up for it, and it is really good. But please, when buying one of these cars and speccing it, make sure to spend some money on options, because if you cheap out on these things, the interior will look completely differently. For example, if you don't go for the widescreen cockpit, you get to very tiny displays with massive bezels that will make the car age 10 times as fast. And also, especially as you can see on this dark interior, if you spec it with the panoramic sunroof, it will look better and you will allow way more light to come in. Plus, it is very smart technology fitted to it. For example, you have 3 different settings to control the sunroof based on what speeds you're traveling, so that can lower the noise levels in the cabin when driving. And also there is a rain sensor built completely into it, so as soon as it starts pouring, it will close automatically and you won't have to think about the car getting flooded. You also get a really decent storage amount in a small car such as this SUV. For example, it's quite easy to fit 1.5 liter of bottle, but that's not the most important thing. Another really cool feature about the ambient system here in the widescreen cockpit is that you get a 3D overlay when you're using the map system, and you get a front-facing camera picture that will show you some arrows, so you'll never have to miss any of the turns you're going to. Also, something really interesting which I absolutely found cool is the car wash system, which will do the most simple things automatically, such as folding the mirrors, closing the windows, and also disconnecting the sensors for the rain and for the parking, so it doesn't beep all the time. And it will automatically start if you have spec'd the 360 camera, so you can see exactly where you are in the car wash. Very cool and neat features, and this car really stands out from the crowd because of them. It is very important to mention the amount of space you have, especially in the front. It is very impressive because looking at the car from the outside, it will definitely trick you into thinking that it is quite a tiny SUV. But you can see I can stretch my head here. I have tons of room. You won't ever have problems, and the seating position is nice and precise, with the seats being extremely comfortable. So it gets a very high result from me for that general overall look. Well done, Mercedes. Let's move on now to the rear seats to see if I can fit as a 180 centimeter size adult without any issues. Sitting in the rear of the Mercedes-Benz GLA feels surprisingly spacious, just as in the front. You have tons of knee room, tons of headroom, and you can really easily stretch out. And the best part is, because of the raised front seat, you can easily stretch and put your feet into the footwells and properly relax into the rear. There's also a couple of neat features here, such as the massive door pockets just as in the front, which can fit almost anything you need, and also a couple of USB ports here. You can also spec the car with another third climate control in a separate option. One thing I don't like are the cheap plastics again at some places, which, to be honest, is kind of to be expected, but this netting is, in my opinion, not to be expected and unacceptable at this price point, and I hope more manufacturers will stop using these things and they're going to be replaced. So all in all, really good impressions from the interior of the GLA. The boot of the GLA is the smallest actually from all of its rivals in its class, which are in the likes of the XC40 from Volvo, the X1 and the Audi Q3. However, it is big enough for all your needs that you'll probably ever have for you and your passenger in your small little SUV. So in that department, it is absolutely fine and you won't have any issues. Let's kick off this driving review by something that not many people would actually do, but this is the driving their small SUV in a little bit of an off-road environment. We are here in a Bulgarian mountain and we want to actually test how capable this little SUV is, and I'm surprised to tell again yet that it is way more capable than it looks. Of course, you wouldn't expect something from the proper big brothers, but still, for that occasional mountain going in the winter or in the summer, it will do just fine for you and your family. Let's see how the suspension works. This is probably the worst you can put it through, and these are Rockstone chips. The first and immediate impression is how well it deals with that potholes and road imperfections. And surprisingly, you can even spec the car for the higher models such as this 250 with adaptive dampers, and as soon as you put them in comfort, it will get even better. The other areas where this car stands out to me is in the comfort department. The steering is absolutely light and very precise, so you can easily put the car into narrow streets or tight spaces when you are driving in the city, which you would expect from a small car such as this one. There is also the engine response, which in comfort it is absolutely reasonable, and this 220 horsepower engine does absolutely fine. The 8-speed automatic gearbox is very good, although it can be laggy at times, and I would definitely not recommend you using it in manual mode because it is quite slow and sluggish and it ruins the whole experience of doing it yourself. So let the car do its thing and you will be more than happy with it. So no matter if you buy the car for you or for your wife for that occasional use, which you can use it in the city to fit it in any single parking spot, or just go to a longer journey, it will do just fine. The seats absolutely comfortable. You can spend a ton of time in them, and in typical Mercedes-Benz fashion, with all the technology that you get, you won't ever feel disappointed from everything you get into the car. The fuel economy from this petrol engine you would expect to be quite high, but actually I'm very surprised to tell you that it is nothing scary. And we got, with some sporty driving, around 8 liters per 100 kilometers, and when you drive it completely normally in the city, which normally the consumption would be a little bit higher, we still managed to do 6.5 liters. Probably if you even take it on the longer journeys, it can drop to the low 7s and higher 6s. So really good results. And also really nice feature that more manufacturers should start using is the gear selector, which is up here next to the steering wheel. It makes it so intuitive to use and much easier instead of using the conventional knob in the center console. But let's talk about how this car deals in twisty roads. We have a mountain road just for us, so we're gonna put the car in dynamic. This makes everything a bit sportier, the suspension gets slightly stiffer, and yeah, that sounds pretty good. Probably there is a pump sound into the car. The car slightly understeers, but actually holds itself not bad at all, and it is actually a fun thing to do. There is not much body roll, surprisingly, and it's very secure and stable even at higher speeds. So no matter who do you buy and get this car for, he will be absolutely fine and will be able to enjoy its full potential. Brakes before the turn. Let's see if we oversteer. Not bad at all. Very decent machine. So what do I think about the 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLA? It is a quite expensive small SUV, however it is fully loaded with technology and it's a great overall car that will justify its price as soon as you get it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you appreciate this episode and like the channel, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Ciao.